When hell rips open the skies above Metropolis, gods meet something older than divinity itself. The Justice League stands ready, but their symbols of hope mean nothing here. Superman's strength, Batman's will, Diana's divine purpose, all just weapons in a war they never knew existed. What happens when heroes who save worlds meet the man who only knows how to cleanse them? The Crimson Tear in reality manifested above Metropolis without warning. A wound between universes that bled argent energy across the pristine skyline. Citizens looked up in horror as the afternoon sky darkened to blood red, clouds circling the anomaly like vultures around fresh carrion. The Justice League watchtower sensors screamed with readings that defied known physics. Superman arrived first, hovering beneath the pulsing gash that stretched wider with each heartbeat of otherworldly energy. Then came the impact. A figure crashed through the portal with the force of a meteorite, creating a shockwave that shattered windows for 6 city blocks. The armored warrior carved a crater into the center of Metropolis Plaza, his impact throwing Superman backward through 3 buildings. When the dust settled, he rose from the smoking depression in the concrete. 8 feet of scarred green armor, weapons mounted across his frame, a helmet with a visor that revealed nothing but cold purpose. The Doomslayer stood motionless, taking in this new reality through sensors and instinct honed across millennia of war. His armor's systems recalibrated, scanning this dimension for the stench of hell. The crucible sword at his side hummed with argent energy, hungry for demonic flesh. The Slayer had not chosen this place, but his mission remained unchanged. Where demons existed, he would hunt. Where hell sought conquest, he would bring ruin. Behind him, the portal that had delivered him here pulsed again, spitting sparks of corruption that began to take root in the city's foundation. "Stop right there." Superman hovered 20 feet away, cape billowing in the unnatural winds swirling from the breach. "I don't know what you are or where you've come from, but you're endangering innocent lives." The Slayer's helmet tilted slightly. His armor's sensors identified the being before him as non-human but non-demonic, powerful but not his prey. The Kryptonian was irrelevant to his purpose. He turned away, combat shotgun materializing in his hands as his focus shifted to the portal. The demonic signature was faint but growing stronger. Hell was finding a way through, as it always did. He moved toward the source, each step cracking the pavement beneath his boots. Superman blurred forward, placing a hand firmly on the Slayer's shoulder plate. "I said stop. We need to contain whatever that portal is and get civilians to safety. You need to stand down," and the Slayer moved with speed that belied his armored bulk. His fist connected with Superman's jaw in an uppercut fueled by strength that had toppled titans. The Man of Steel sailed upward, caught off guard by the sheer physical force behind the blow. The Slayer didn't pause to watch, continuing his march toward the portal as the first wisps of sulfurous smoke began to seep into Metropolis air. Superman recovered quickly, rubbing his jaw with genuine surprise. Few beings could strike him with such impact. He descended again, this time with caution in his approach. "You pack quite a punch for someone who just crashed into my city, but I can't let you near that tear until we understand what's happening. The Justice League is en route, and we'll handle this together." The Slayer's only response was to raise his shotgun, not at Superman, but at the space behind him where reality had begun to warp. The air rippled as claws tore through dimensional fabric. An imp, the first scout of Hell's legions, emerged screeching into Metropolis. Superman turned, eyes widening at the sight of the creature. Before he could react, the Slayer's shotgun roared, blasting the demon into bloody mist. More tears appeared across the plaza. More demons emerged. The invasion had begun. The Slayer moved into the familiar rhythm of violence that was his only true language, his only prayer. Superman watched in shock as the armored warrior tore through the emerging creatures with practiced efficiency. Each movement was economy and purpose, each kill executed with the dispassion of someone who had performed this ritual countless times before. "What are these things?" Superman called out, using his heat vision to incinerate a Hell Knight that lunged toward a group of fleeing civilians. The monster's flesh bubbled and charred, but it kept coming until the Slayer's fist punched through its skull, ripping out a glowing portion of its brain matter. The Slayer didn't answer. Communication was not part of his crusade. Instead, he reloaded his weapon and moved deeper into the growing horde. His armor absorbed their fireballs and acid, their claws scraping uselessly against metal forged in forgotten divine fires. For each demon he killed, 3 more emerged from widening breaches that now appeared throughout the city. From the watchtower, Batman analyzed the cascade of dimensional ruptures spreading across Metropolis. Superman. The energy readings are unlike anything in our database. These ruptures are spreading exponentially. Whatever came through that initial portal seems to have weakened the barriers between dimensions. There's someone here, Batman. Some kind of armored soldier. He's fighting these creatures, but he's not communicating. He attacked me when I tried to intervene. Batman's voice remained level. Is he hostile to civilians? Superman paused, watching as the Slayer positioned himself between a group of demonic entities and an office building where humans cowered inside. No, he seems focused exclusively on these creatures. He's protecting people, but with extreme violence. These monsters, they're unlike anything I've encountered. Diana and the others are inbound. We need to contain this situation before these breaches spread beyond Metropolis. Our priority is evacuation and containment. Superman agreed, but as he moved to assist with civilian evacuation, he couldn't help but watch the methodical destruction the Slayer brought to each demon he encountered. There was something ancient in his movements, something that spoke of a war waged across time itself. This was no random soldier. This was vengeance incarnate. Wonder Woman arrived with Flash and Green Lantern, her sword already drawn as she took in the chaos spreading across Metropolis. Demons swarmed from growing rifts, buildings burned with unnatural fire, and at the center of the maelstrom was the Doomslayer, a green-armored hurricane of violence. By the gods, Diana whispered, watching as the warrior ripped a Baron of Hell in half with his bare hands, bathing in its burning blood without hesitation. What manner of man is this? Flash zipped to her side after evacuating 3 city blocks in minutes. Whoever he is, he's on our side against these things, right? That's what matters. Batman's voice came through their comms. We can't be certain. The energy signatures suggest all of this, the warrior included, came from the same source dimension. For now, focus on containment and evacuation. Superman, what's the status of the primary breach? Superman hovered near the original portal, which now stretched almost 100 meters across, a swirling vortex of crimson and black energy, growing larger by the minute. I can see something massive forming on the other side. Something's coming through, Batman. Something big. The Slayer heard this exchange through his armor's systems, which had already synchronized with this world's communication frequencies. His focus shifted to the primary portal. If a major demon lord was emerging, all other concerns were secondary. His HUD flashed warnings as energy readings spiked. Whatever was coming would change the nature of this incursion from skirmish to war. As if sensing his attention, the portal convulsed violently. A massive clawed hand gripped the edge of reality, tearing the dimensional barrier wider. The spider mastermind began to emerge, its grotesque techno-organic form shimmering with argent energy as it pulled itself into the DC universe. Its mechanized body dwarfed buildings, 8 articulated legs stabbing into Metropolis infrastructure as it dragged its bloated central mass through the breach. The Justice League members paused in horror at the scale of the monstrosity. Even Superman, who had faced world-ending threats before, felt a primal revulsion at the creature that was neither fully machine nor fully organic, but a perversion of both. Its central brain pulsed obscenely beneath translucent flesh, surrounded by weapons platforms that swiveled toward the defenders of Earth. Only the Slayer moved forward, unimpressed and unafraid. He had killed this creature, or its equivalent, across countless dimensions. His weapons cycled as he assessed the optimal approach. The BFG materialized in his hands, its green energy core pulsing in rhythm with the argent power flowing through his Praetor suit. "Wait!" Superman called out, flying to intercept him. "We need a coordinated attack. That thing could level the city if we're not careful." The Slayer didn't break stride, shoving past the Man of Steel with single-minded determination. The Spider Mastermind's sensors locked onto the familiar enemy, the one demonkind feared above all others. Its weapons charged, targeting the approaching Slayer with enough firepower to level a small country. "Everyone get clear," Batman ordered through the comms as energy readings from both the demon and the Slayer's weapon reached critical levels. The Mastermind fired first, a barrage of plasma and hellfire that carved trenches through Metropolis infrastructure. The Slayer dodged with practiced precision, each movement bringing him closer to his target. When the BFG discharged, it released not merely energy, but annihilation in physical form. The green plasma sphere moved with deceptive slowness, trailing tendrils of destruction that vaporized everything they touched. The primary blast struck the Mastermind's central mass, argent energy meeting argent energy in a reaction that momentarily silenced the battlefield. The monster's screech vibrated at frequencies that shattered glass and ruptured concrete. Secondary explosions cascaded across its mechanical limbs as the BFG's energy sought out and destroyed its infernal essence. But the Spider Mastermind was not so easily vanquished in this realm. The dimensional properties of the DC universe interacted unpredictably with Hell's corruption, granting the Demon Lord resilience it shouldn't have possessed. Though gravely wounded, it remained functional, its remaining weapons training on the Slayer. Wonder Woman was the first to recover, leaping into action with her sword raised. "Whatever this abomination is, it dies today." She struck at one of the creature's massive legs, her enchanted blade slicing through the metal organic composite. The limb crashed down, crushing an already evacuated bus beneath its weight. The Slayer acknowledged her effectiveness with a slight nod before launching himself onto the creature's central platform. While the Justice League engaged the monster's defenses, he would strike at its core. This was the most efficient division of labor. Green Lantern created massive energy constructs to pin down the thrashing mechanical limbs, while Superman and Flash worked in tandem to disable the weapon systems. The Spider Mastermind roared in frustrated rage, unable to focus its full attention on any single opponent. The Slayer used this distraction to reach the pulsing brain at its center, chainsaw roaring to life in his hands. The battle for Metropolis raged for 27 minutes before the Spider Mastermind finally collapsed, its systems shutting down as the Slayer tore its central brain to shreds. The massive carcass sparked and smoldered, demons shrieking as their master fell. With the death of the Mastermind, the primary portal began to fluctuate, dimensional energies becoming unstable. "The breach is collapsing," Batman observed from the watchtower. "But the smaller rifts throughout the city remain active. Something is keeping them open." The Slayer knew the truth before the Justice League could deduce it. The corruption had taken root. Hell had found purchase in this dimension, and it would spread like a cancer if not excised completely. His armor's sensors detected the Argent energy signature dispersing throughout the city, seeking places to corrupt and transform. This was only the beginning. As the demons retreated temporarily to regroup, the Justice League surrounded the Slayer. His armor was scorched and dented but fully functional. Gore dripped from his gauntlets and boots. He stood among the heroes of this world, alien to their methods but aligned in immediate purpose. Superman approached cautiously. "We need to talk. Those creatures, that portal, none of this makes sense to us, but you clearly understand what we're facing." The Slayer remained silent, his visor revealing nothing. His mission did not require explanation. Batman's voice came through the comms again. "Bring him to the watchtower. Whatever knowledge he has, we need it. The smaller breaches are stabilizing rather than closing. This isn't over." Wonder Woman stepped forward, her armor spattered with the same demonic gore that covered the Slayer. Of all the League members, she recognized most clearly what stood before them. You are a warrior born for battle against these abominations. I can see it in how you move, how you kill without hesitation. Tell us, who are you that fights with such purpose?" For a moment, it seemed the Slayer might actually respond. Instead, he checked his weapon systems, reloaded his shotgun, and pointed toward the horizon where smoke rose from new demonic incursions. The message was clear. Talk was irrelevant. Only action mattered now. Green Lantern shook his head. "Great. A mute murder machine who only wants to keep killing. This day keeps getting better." Flash nodded. "Yeah. But have you seen him fight? I'm kind of glad he's on our side." "Are you certain that he is?" Batman questioned through the comms. "Bring him in. We need answers before this spreads further." The Slayer had no intention of being brought in for questioning. His HUD already mapped the spreading corruption, identifying 3 major convergence points where Hell's influence was taking strongest hold. Gotham City, with its history of suffering and madness, Themyscira, with its divine energies that Hell would covet, and deep beneath Metropolis itself, where the original breach had allowed corruption to seep into the foundations. Without warning, Slayer activated his armor's teleportation system, which had adapted to this dimension's unique properties. He vanished in a flash of blue energy, leaving the Justice League staring at empty space. "Where did he go?" Superman demanded, scanning the city with his various vision powers. Batman's response was grim. "Gotham. I'm detecting a massive energy surge in the industrial district, the same energy signature as those creatures. The corruption of Gotham had begun." The Slayer materialized amid the Gothic architecture and perpetual shadows that defined Batman's domain. Here, Hell found fertile ground for its corruption. The despair and crime that permeated Gotham's history provided an anchor for demonic influence. Already, the environment was transforming. Buildings twisted into more organic, visceral forms. The night sky burned with an unnatural crimson glow. Gargoyles animated, their stone forms infused with demonic essence. Arkham Asylum had become the focal point, its history of madness and suffering creating a beacon for Hell's corruption. The inmates, already broken in mind, proved perfect vessels for possession. What emerged from the asylum gates were no longer human but twisted amalgamations of flesh and nightmare. The Slayer moved through Gotham's streets with grim purpose, following the strongest corruption signal toward Arkham. Each step brought him into conflict with possessed humans and lesser demons that had already established territory. His shotgun roared in the night, the sound echoing between buildings like thunder. Batman arrived to find his city transforming before his eyes. The familiar landscape of his life's mission warped into something from beyond rational nightmare. He watched from a gargoyle as the Slayer methodically cleared a path toward Arkham, leaving nothing alive in his wake. "He's heading for Arkham," Batman reported to the League. "The asylum appears to be the epicenter of this corruption in Gotham." Superman, Diana, the corruption is spreading too quickly for traditional containment. We need to understand what we're fighting. The Slayer paused at the gates of Arkham, his sensors detecting a familiar energy signature approaching. Batman descended, landing 10 feet away. For a moment, the two stood in silence, both warriors of a kind, both uncompromising in their methods, though worlds apart in philosophy. "Those people you're killing," Batman said finally, "some of them are still human. Possessed but human, there must be a way to save them." The Slayer's helmet tilted slightly. His experience across countless dimensions had taught him the cruel truth. Once hell took root in living flesh, salvation was rarely possible. Mercy was a luxury the multiverse couldn't afford in this war. He turned away from Batman, raising his shotgun as the asylum doors burst open and a tide of corrupted inmates poured forth. Batman's voice hardened. "I can't let you execute victims. Not in my city." A batarang struck the Slayer's helmet, doing no damage but succeeding in gaining his attention. The Doomslayer turned slowly, facing Batman fully. For the first time, he seemed to truly assess one of this world's defenders. His suit systems analyzed Batman, cataloging weaknesses, strengths, and potential threat level. Batman stood his ground. "We fight for this world, but we don't sacrifice its people willingly. There must be another way." The ground beneath them trembled as something massive moved within Arkham's walls. The Slayer's HUD identified a major demonic presence emerging. A Hell Baron had taken root in this place of madness, using the asylum's psychic resonance to strengthen its hold on reality. The Slayer made his decision. He extended a gauntleted hand, not in friendship but in temporary alliance. Batman hesitated for only a moment before accepting the gesture. Whatever their differences, the immediate threat took priority. "Flash, Superman," Batman called through his comm. "I'm with our armored visitor at Arkham. There's something big coming. We'll need backup." As if summoned by his words, the asylum's main building tore open from within. The Hell Baron emerged, but this was no ordinary demon lord. It had fused with the essence of Arkham itself, incorporating the madness and the building's very structure into its form. Stretching 30 feet tall, its body was a grotesque fusion of asylum architecture and demonic flesh. Faces of inmates writhed beneath its skin, screaming in eternal torment. In one massive hand, it clutched the broken body of Dr. Jonathan Crane, the Scarecrow, whose fear toxin research had been incorporated into the Baron's arsenal. Batman's expression remained stoic behind his cowl, but his heart rate increased. This was beyond anything he had prepared for. The corruption of his rogues' gallery into literal demons represented a perversion of his life's work. The Slayer stepped forward, positioning himself between Batman and the monstrosity. This, at least, was familiar territory. His crucible sword materialized in his hand, the argent blade humming with energy that could sever Hell's connection to mortal reality. The Hell Baron roared, unleashing a wave of fear toxin enhanced by demonic energy. The miasma rolled across Arkham's grounds, causing the vegetation to wither and transform into fleshy, pulsing growths. Batman deployed his gas mask, but even filtered, the supernatural fear began to affect his mind. The Slayer, protected by his Praetor suit and millennia of exposure to Hell's influence, strode forward unaffected. Superman arrived, descending from the sky like divine intervention. The fear toxin swirled around him but found no purchase in Kryptonian physiology. "Batman, are you—" His words cut short as he took in the transformed asylum and the monstrous entity that had once been a building meant to heal the mentally ill. "We need to contain it," Batman managed through gritted teeth, fighting the enhanced fear toxin's effects. "Evacuate any survivors, then." The Slayer had already engaged, launching himself at the Baron with his crucible raised. The demon swung a massive limb formed from asylum debris and flesh, trying to swat him from the air. With mid-air precision, the Slayer twisted, using the momentum of the swing to land on the Baron's arm. He ran along the limb, crucible carving a path through corrupted flesh, severing the unholy connections that bound building to demon. Superman joined the assault from another angle, his heat vision targeting what appeared to be vital organs pulsing beneath the creature's architectural exoskeleton. The Baron howled, its voice a chorus of hundreds of tormented inmates, and slammed its fist into the ground. The impact created a shockwave of corrupted energy that rippled outward, transforming everything it touched. Grass became sinew, concrete liquefied into pools of blood and bone. The Slayer recognized the pattern. The Hell Baron was attempting to create a gore nest, a permanent anchor point that would allow Hell to maintain its hold even if the demon itself was destroyed. With practiced efficiency, he changed tactics, focusing his attacks on the pulsing center mass where the transformation was originating. Batman, struggling against the fear toxin, recognized the strategy. "Superman, target the center, not the limbs. That's the source." Working in unexpected concert, the Man of Steel and the Doomslayer converged on the Baron's core. Superman's strength opened a path through the outer defenses, while the Slayer's crucible struck at the hellish heart within. The blade, forged to sever Hell's influence, plunged into the central mass of corruption. Argent energy flared against demonic essence, creating a reaction that momentarily illuminated Gotham's sky like a miniature sun. The Baron collapsed, its massive form dissolving into burning corruption that seeped back into the earth. The Slayer withdrew his blade, scanning for any remaining demonic signature. The asylum stood partially destroyed, but the active corruption was receding. Batman approached cautiously, still fighting the effects of the fear toxin. "The survivors," he insisted, swaying slightly. "We need to check for survivors." The Slayer's sensors indicated few, if any, human life signs remained within the asylum ruins. Hell's corruption had been thorough. Those not killed outright had been transformed beyond recovery. Only the complete excision of the corruption would prevent its return. His gauntlet formed a fist, forearm blade extending as he prepared to execute this necessary purge. Superman landed between him and the asylum remains. "No, we've stopped the immediate threat. We don't destroy indiscriminately. There could be people we can save." The Slayer's helmet tilted, considering the Kryptonian. His armor's analysis indicated this being could indeed pose a significant obstacle. Tactically, conflict was suboptimal when other corruption sites required attention. The Slayer retracted his blade, stepping back in temporary concession. Batman had recovered enough to stand unaided, his trained mind pushing back against the toxin's influence. "The corruption isn't just in Gotham. You know that, don't you? You came here specifically, which means there are other locations equally important." The Slayer's HUD flashed with alerts. The corruption in Themyscira had reached critical levels. The island's divine energies provided unique resources for Hell's expansion. His armor calculated that if the Amazon homeland fell completely, the demonic influence would gain access to divine pathways that connected to every pantheon in this universe. Without response to Batman's question, the Slayer activated his teleportation system again. His form dissolved in blue energy, leaving the two Justice League members among the ruins of Arkham. "He's gone again," Superman stated the obvious, scanning the horizon. Batman tapped his communicator. "Wonder Woman, he's coming to Themyscira. Whatever these entities want, your home is their next target." Diana's voice came through, filled with static. "The island is already under attack. Mother has ordered full mobilization of our forces, but these creatures corrupt everything they touch. We need assistance, but approach with caution. The barriers between worlds have grown thin here." The Slayer materialized on Themyscira's shore to find paradise in flames. The island's divine architecture, unchanged for millennia, now twisted with Hell's corruption. The sacred groves bled actual blood, trees transformed into vessels of flesh and bone. Amazonian warriors fought valiantly against waves of demons, their enchanted weapons proving more effective than ordinary steel, but they were still being overwhelmed by sheer numbers. At the island's center, where the divine energy was strongest, a massive ritual was underway. Imps and Hell Knights captured Amazon defenders, using their divine essence to power a transformation. The Slayer recognized the pattern. Hell sought to create a super-gore nest, using the divine energies of Themyscira to establish a permanent foothold in this dimension. Queen Hippolyta led a desperate charge against the ritual site, her golden armor shining like a beacon among the corruption. Beside her rode Diana, returned to defend her homeland. Their weapons carved through demon flesh with practiced precision, but for each monster slain, two more emerged from widening rifts. The Slayer wasted no time on observation. He moved across the battlefield like a force of nature, each step bringing demonic death. Amazons paused in their own fighting to witness this newcomer who killed with such methodical efficiency. His combat shotgun roared, each blast removing demon heads and limbs. When ammunition ran low, he switched seamlessly to ripping and tearing with his bare hands. Diana spotted him first, recognition flashing across her face. The warrior from Metropolis. She cleaved a baron of hell in half with her sword, fighting her way toward the Slayer. "Our sacred temples have been corrupted. The demons focus their efforts there." The Slayer acknowledged her with a nod. His HUD already highlighted the central temple complex as the primary target. The super gore nest was nearly complete. If not stopped, it would transform Themyscira into a permanent hell portal, allowing unrestricted demonic access to Earth. Together, the Amazon Princess and the Doomslayer carved a path toward the central temple. Diana's divine weapons complemented his argent-infused arsenal. They moved with the synchronized efficiency of warriors who recognized each other's purpose, if not methods. The temple entrance loomed before them, once a structure of pure marble and gold, now a grotesque parody formed of flesh and bone. The columns pulsed like arteries, the steps slick with blood and viscera. Heat rolled from within, carrying the stench of sulfur and decay. "By the gods," Diana whispered, momentarily halted by the desecration of her people's most sacred site. What manner of evil can corrupt divinity itself? The Slayer had seen this countless times across countless dimensions. Hell corrupted everything eventually, unless stopped with absolute violence. He stepped past her, BFG materializing in his hands. The weapon's green energy core pulsed with destructive potential, a counter to the red corruption that had taken root in this place of worship. Inside the temple, the transformation was nearly complete. The sacred pool at the center, once filled with water blessed by the gods themselves, now bubbled with molten flesh and argent energy. Suspended above it was Queen Hippolyta, her body held in place by organic growths that pierced her armor and flesh. Her life force was being drained to power the final stages of the Gore Nest's creation. Diana's cry of rage echoed through the corrupted temple. She launched herself at the organic tendrils holding her mother, sword flashing in the hellish light. The Slayer moved simultaneously, targeting the pulsing heart of the Gore Nest with cold precision. From the bubbling pool rose the architect of this desecration. The Gladiator, one of Hell's elite warriors, emerged with its massive shield and double-bladed energy weapon. The demon stood 12 feet tall, its armor fused with its flesh, eyes burning with hatred for the Slayer, its eternal enemy. "Diana," Hippolyta called weakly, blood flowing from where the tendrils penetrated her body. "The pool must be cleansed. Our patron gods cannot reach us while it remains corrupted." The Slayer assessed the tactical situation instantly. The Wonder Woman would focus on rescuing her mother and purifying the pool. He would engage the Gladiator and destroy the developing Gore Nest. This was optimal division of resources. The Gladiator charged, its massive blade sweeping in an arc that would have bisected a lesser warrior. The Slayer met the attack with his own crucible, the weapons clashing in a flare of energy that momentarily outshone the corruption surrounding them. The impact shook the temple foundations, marble cracking beneath their feet. While the Slayer occupied the Gladiator, Diana fought her way to her mother. Amazon training combined with Justice League experience made her a whirlwind of lethal grace. Her sword severed the tendrils holding Hippolyta, her free arm catching the queen as she fell. "The water," Hippolyta gasped, her divine essence dangerously depleted. "It must be purified with sacred lightning. Only then can the gods aid us." Diana understood immediately. She lowered her mother gently to the floor behind a fallen column, providing momentary shelter from the battle raging between the Slayer and the Gladiator. Raising her bracelets toward the corrupted sky visible through the temple's shattered roof, she called upon her heritage. "Zeus, father of gods and men, heed the call of your daughter in this hour of need." The Slayer fought with the cold efficiency that had made him legend across the multiverse. Each movement was purpose-given form, each attack calculated for maximum damage. The Gladiator matched him in raw strength but lacked the experience gained through endless war. Where the demon relied on brutality, the Slayer employed precision. Where it used its shield defensively, he used environmental awareness to create openings. Their battle carved destruction through the temple, ancient pillars collapsing around them as their weapons discharged energy that marble and gold were never designed to withstand. The Slayer drove the Gladiator back step by step, forcing it toward the developing Gore Nest. If he could position the demon correctly, A single BFG discharge could eliminate both threats simultaneously. Outside, the sky darkened further, but not from Hell's corruption. Storm clouds gathered with unnatural speed, answering Diana's prayer. Lightning flashed between clouds, building in intensity. Diana raised her sword as a conduit, preparing to channel divine power into the corrupted pool. The Slayer saw his opportunity. With a burst of speed, he ducked beneath the gladiator's shield, driving his crucible up through the demon's chin and into its brain. As the massive creature began to fall, he kicked it backward into the gore nest's developing heart. In the same fluid motion, he leapt clear and fired the BFG. "Now, Diana," he commanded, the first words he had spoken since arriving in this dimension. The timing had to be perfect. As the BFG's energy sphere engulfed the gladiator and the gore nest, Diana brought down divine lightning through her sword and into the corrupted pool. The two energies, Hell's corruption and divine purification, met in cataclysmic reaction. For a moment, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Then came the detonation. The temple imploded, divine energy and argent power cancelling each other in a reaction that consumed the corruption. Absolutely. A shockwave of purifying force rolled outward across Themyscira, burning away Hell's influence wherever it touched. Demons shrieked as their forms dissolved, rifts collapsed upon themselves, and corrupted vegetation returned to its natural state. The Slayer's armor protected him from the worst of the blast, though diagnostic warnings flashed across his HUD. Diana had shielded her mother with her own body, her divine heritage allowing her to withstand the purifying fire that washed over the island. When the light faded and the rumbling stopped, Themyscira stood damaged but cleansed. The Amazon warriors who had survived looked upon their sacred island with relief and sorrow. Many had fallen in the defense of their home, and much had been destroyed, but the corruption had been excised completely. Diana rose slowly, helping her mother to her feet. The queen's wounds remained, but without the corruption feeding on her divine essence, she would recover. Their eyes turned to the unical, sating refines of the queen's crest. Slayer, who stood amid the ruins of their most sacred temple, his armor scorched but intact. "You spoke," Diana said, surprise evident in her voice. "You actually spoke." The Slayer's helmet revealed nothing, but he inclined his head slightly in acknowledgement. The tactical situation had required clear communication, nothing more. Queen Hippolyta straightened despite her wounds, royal dignity undiminished by the battle. "You fight with the fury of Ares, but the purpose of Athena. Who are you, warrior, who knows these abominations so intimately?" Before any answer could come, the Slayer's HUD flashed with urgent warnings. The final corruption site beneath Metropolis had reached critical mass. The temporary victories in Gotham and Themyscira were insufficient. Hell had established its primary foothold where the first breach occurred, using the time bought by the other incursions to strengthen its hold. Diana recognized his posture shift. "There's another site." "Where?" "Metropolis," the Slayer stated, voice rough from disuse. "Beneath the city, the focal point." Diana turned to her mother. "I must go. If these creatures establish a permanent presence, no realm will be safe, divine or mortal." Queen Hippolyta nodded gravely. "Go with the blessing of the gods, daughter. They are awake to this threat now, thanks to your actions here." She turned her gaze to the Slayer. "And you, unnamed warrior, you fight a war across worlds, that much is clear. Know that Themyscira stands with you against these abominations." The Slayer acknowledged her words with a slight nod before activating his teleportation system. Diana grasped his arm at the last second, joining him in the blue energy field. Together, they vanished from the recovering Paradise Island, leaving the Amazons to rebuild what Hell had nearly destroyed. Beneath Metropolis, Hell had worked unnoticed, while the Justice League focused on the more visible incursions. Using the city's underground infrastructure, demonic corruption spread through maintenance tunnels, subway systems, and forgotten caverns. At its heart, directly beneath where the original portal had opened, a massive hell temple had formed. This was no mere gore nest or dimensional anchor. This was the beginning of a true hell ecosystem transplanted into the DC universe. The architecture resembled the unholy cathedrals of the blood temples, where demon priests performed rituals to strengthen hell's hold on conquered dimensions. When the Slayer and Diana materialized in the underground chamber, the full scale of the corruption became apparent. The cavern stretched for miles in every direction, its ceiling reaching nearly to metropolis streets above. The walls pulsed with organic matter, rivers of blood and argent energy flowing through channels carved into living tissue. Demonic runes covered every surface, each burning with unholy purpose. At the center stood a structure resembling a massive inverted pentagram formed of bone and sinew. Suspended at each point were captured humans and metahumans, their life essence being drained to power the ritual underway. Diana recognized several heroes among the victims, members of the extended Justice League who had responded to the crisis. "Great Hera," she whispered, taking in the scale of the corruption. "This has been growing while we fought the surface battles." The Slayer's armor scanned the environment, identifying energy signatures and structural weaknesses. His HUD highlighted the 5 power conduits that fed the central ritual and the massive portal that was forming above it. Unlike the unstable tiers that had allowed lesser demons through, this portal was being crafted with precision, designed to create a permanent pathway between Hell and the DC universe. "We must free the captives first," Diana insisted, moving toward the nearest suspension point where Zatanna hung unconscious, mystical energy being extracted from her body to fuel the ritual. The Slayer shook his head once. His scans indicated the ritual had progressed too far for such an approach. Freeing the captives individually would take too much time, allowing the portal to stabilize. Instead, he pointed to the central structure where a massive demon lord was materializing, piece by grotesque piece. The icon of sin was coming through, its massive form assembling as the ritual progressed. Already, its horned head and upper torso had formed, eyes burning with malevolent intelligence as it observed the intruders. When fully manifested, not even the combined might of the Justice League would be sufficient to defeat it. Diana recognized the tactical reality. "We strike at the heart then, but those are our friends, our allies. We cannot sacrifice them." The Slayer had made such calculations countless times across countless battles, individual lives against the survival of entire dimensions. The math was always the same. Yet something in this warrior woman's determination reached through his single-minded purpose. Perhaps in this universe, with these allies, another approach was possible. His gauntleted hand pointed to the upper level, where control runes pulsed with argent energy. Then to the central chamber where the icon continued to materialize, 2 targets, requiring simultaneous attack to disrupt the ritual without destroying the captives. Diana understood immediately. "I will take the control mechanisms. You engage the Demon Lord directly. We strike together on your signal." The Slayer nodded once, his weapons cycling as he selected the optimal loadout for facing the icon of sin. The crucible would be essential for severing its connection to Hell's energy. The BFG would provide initial damage to weaken its manifesting form. They moved with the synchronization of warriors who recognized each other's capabilities. Diana flew toward the upper level, her sword already drawn. The Slayer charged directly toward the central chamber, drawing the attention of every lesser demon in the vicinity. This was by design. Let him be the focus of Hell's wrath while the Amazon disabled the ritual's control systems. Demons swarmed from side chambers and emerged from the fleshy walls. Imps, Hell Knights, Barons, Cacodemons, each attacking with the desperate fury of servants protecting their master's arrival. The Slayer moved through them like a natural disaster, each shot and strike ending demonic existence with practiced efficiency. He did not slow, did not deviate from his path toward the icon. Diana faced her own opposition. Demonic priests, corrupt human followers who had pledged themselves to Hell's invasion, and summoned guardians converged on her position. Her Amazonian training had prepared her for many forms of combat, but the pure malevolence of these entities tested even her resolve. Still, she fought through, her sword severing control conduits with precise strikes, while her bracelets deflected demonic energy attacks. "Superman, Batman," she called through her communicator as she fought. "We've found the primary incursion beneath Metropolis. A massive temple complex has been constructed. They're bringing something through, something bigger than anything we've faced so far." Batman's voice came through, broken by interference. "We're detecting the energy surge. It's off the charts. The entire League is converging on your location." "There's no time," Diana replied, ducking under a priest's energy blast before separating his head from his shoulders. "The Slayer and I are engaged. We have a plan to disrupt the ritual, but be prepared. If we fail, what comes through will be beyond anything Earth has faced." The Slayer reached the central chamber as the icon of Sin's manifestation approached 70% completion. The massive demon lord, 300 feet of armored flesh and mechanical augmentation, focused its gaze upon its ancient enemy. Even partially formed, its presence distorted reality, gravity fluctuating as hell's. Physics bled into the DC universe. The BFG discharged, its green energy sphere striking the icon's exposed chest where the heart was still forming. The demon roared, the sound shaking the entire underground complex. Chunks of ceiling collapsed, crushing lesser demons unfortunate enough to be beneath them. The energy sphere expanded, tendrils seeking out and destroying supporting structures around the manifestation ritual. Diana saw her opportunity. With the control priests distracted by the Slayer's attack, she flew to the central control rune, the largest glyph that coordinated the entire ritual. Her sword plunged into its center, divine energy meeting hell's corruption in a reaction that caused the rune to crack and sputter. "Now," she called to the Slayer. "The containment is weakening." The Slayer had already positioned himself. As Diana disrupted the control systems, he launched himself at the icon's forming body, crucible raised. The blade struck precisely where the demon's connection to hell was strongest, severing the metaphysical umbilical that fed it power and substance from its home dimension. The reaction was immediate and catastrophic. The icon of Sin roared in fury and pain as its manifestation faltered. The portal above began to collapse, dimensional energies backflowing into hell rather than allowing hell into the DC universe. The suspension fields holding the captive heroes flickered and failed, dropping them to the chamber floor. Diana flew down, catching Zatanna and moving quickly to gather the others before the temple's imminent collapse. The Slayer maintained his position, crucible embedded in the icon's chest, ensuring the connection remained severed until the portal closed completely. The demon thrashed and fought, but with each passing second, more of its form dissolved, pulled back through the collapsing portal. The temple shook violently as hell's influence receded. The organic walls began to dissolve, returning to base matter. Rivers of blood evaporated, and the unholy architecture crumbled. Diana had managed to gather the fallen heroes near an exit tunnel, but the Slayer remained at the center, locked in his final confrontation with the icon. "We need to leave now," she called to him. "This entire complex is collapsing." The Slayer knew his duty. Until the icon was completely banished and the portal fully closed, he could not retreat. If even a fragment of the Demon Lord remained in this dimension, it would eventually reconstitute and resume Hell's invasion. The crucible flared brighter in his hands, channeling his will and purpose directly into the icon's essence. Superman burst through the ceiling, sending debris scattering as he entered the collapsing temple. He took in the situation at a glance, flying to Diana's position to assist with the injured heroes. "Get them out," Diana instructed. "I'll help the Slayer finish this." Superman nodded, gathering the unconscious forms of their comrades. "Batman has established a medical perimeter topside. Be quick. This whole area is becoming unstable." Diana flew back toward the center where the Slayer maintained his position against the fading icon. The demon's form was now less than 30% manifested, but it fought with the desperation of a being facing true defeat. Its remaining arm swung at the Slayer, catching him with enough force to send him flying into a collapsing wall. Diana intercepted, catching him before impact. His armor showed significant damage, power fluctuations causing his shield systems to fail intermittently. The visor of his helmet had cracked, revealing a glimpse of the man beneath the armor. Eyes that had witnessed endless war stared out, unblinking and resolute. "Together," Diana stated rather than suggested, supporting him as they returned to face the icon. The Slayer accepted her assistance without acknowledgement. His mission remained unchanged. The demon must be banished completely. The crucible had been knocked from his grasp when the icon struck him, the blade now embedded in the chamber floor near the demon's dissolving form. Diana understood what was needed. She flew directly at the massive demon, dodging its weakening attacks with Amazonian grace. Reaching the crucible, she grasped the hilt. Divine power met argent energy, creating a feedback loop that momentarily staggered her. But her heritage as daughter of Zeus allowed her to channel the weapon's power, if only briefly. With a battle cry that would have made her Amazon sisters proud, Diana drove the crucible into the icon's skull, directly between its burning eyes. The blade sank to the hilt, divine and argent energies combining to deliver the final severing of Hell's connection to the DC universe. The icon of sin released a roar that transcended sound, manifesting as pure psychic anguish that echoed through the minds of everyone within miles. Its form collapsed inward, pulled through the rapidly shrinking portal back to the hell dimension it came from. The crucible went with it, torn from Diana's grasp by forces beyond mortal comprehension. The Slayer watched as his ancient weapon vanished with his eternal enemy, a tactically acceptable loss if it ensured the complete banishment of the icon. His armor's systems calculated the portal's collapse rate, determining they had approximately 17 seconds to evacuate before the entire complex imploded. Diana returned to his side, offering support that he did not physically need, but tactically accepted. Together, they moved toward the exit tunnel as reality collapsed around them. The temple, now devoid of Hell's sustaining corruption, crumbled into component atoms, leaving nothing but a massive cavern beneath Metropolis. They emerged onto the surface to find the Justice League had established a perimeter around the affected area. Medical teams treated the rescued heroes while Batman coordinated containment efforts. The sky above had returned to normal, the crimson influence of Hell receding completely from this dimension. Superman approached as the Slayer and Diana cleared the final exit tunnel, which collapsed behind them with a sound like the earth itself sighing in relief. "Is it over? Truly over?" The Slayer's armor ran final scans, detecting no remaining traces of active demonic corruption. The invasion had been halted, the connection severed. He nodded once, definitively. Batman joined them, his expression unreadable behind his cowl but his voice betraying exhaustion. "The other sites are showing similar results. Whatever you did down there, it worked. The corruption is receding worldwide." Diana looked to the Slayer. He knew exactly what we faced and how to fight it. This is not his first battle against these entities. The Slayer stood silent among Earth's defenders, his armor battle-damaged but still functional. His HUD displayed diagnostic warnings and ammunition counts out of habit, though the immediate threat had passed. Without the Crucible, his options for dimensional travel were limited. The portal that had brought him here was gone, along with the icon of sin. "You're stranded here, aren't you?" Batman deduced, studying the armored warrior with analytical precision. "Your weapon, the one that could open portals, it's gone." The Slayer did not confirm or deny this assessment. His mission remained unchanged regardless of dimension. Where Hell threatened, he would hunt. This universe had proven vulnerable to demonic incursion once, which meant it could happen again. Superman stepped forward, extending a hand in formal greeting that had been impossible during the crisis. "We owe you a debt. Whatever these creatures were, you knew how to fight them when we didn't." The Slayer regarded the offered hand momentarily before accepting it with a firm grasp. This universe's defenders had proven themselves worthy allies in combat. Their methods differed from his, Their understanding of Hell's true nature was limited, but they had fought with courage and effectiveness. "Will you tell us who you are?" Diana asked. "Where you come from? Why you fight these demons with such single-minded purpose?" For a moment, it seemed the Slayer might actually answer. His helmet's speakers activated, vocal systems engaging. But what could he say that would adequately explain eternity spent in righteous violence? How could these heroes comprehend the endless Slayer testament that was his existence? Instead, he reached up and removed his helmet completely. The face revealed was human in form but marked by experience beyond human comprehension. Scars mapped campaigns across dimensions. Eyes reflected the fire of worlds consumed by Hell and subsequently saved through his intervention. This was his only answer, the only truth he could offer. He was the Doomslayer, nothing more, nothing less. Batman studied the revealed face with careful attention. "We'll help you find a way home, if that's what you want. Our universe has experts in dimensional travel, technologies that might help." The Slayer replaced his helmet, systems re-engaging with familiar efficiency. His HUD immediately began cataloging potential threats and resources in this new hunting ground. The Justice League represented powerful allies, but experience had taught him to rely ultimately on himself alone. Wonder Woman recognized the warrior's decision before he needed to express it. "You don't intend to go back, not yet. You believe these creatures might return." The Slayer nodded once. Hell was persistent. Where it had found access once, it would seek entry again. This dimension had proven susceptible to corruption. Until that vulnerability was addressed, his presence served tactical purpose. Superman looked troubled by this unspoken assessment. "We've faced multiversal threats before. If these demons return, we'll be better prepared." The Slayer's helmet tilted slightly, neither agreeing nor disagreeing. Preparation required understanding. Understanding required experience. The Justice League had gained their first taste of Hell's true nature, but remained ignorant of its full horror. This was not criticism but tactical reality. "Stay then," Batman stated pragmatically. "Work with us. Share what you know about these entities so we can defend ourselves better in the future." The Slayer considered the offer with cold logic. Alliance had proven effective in the immediate conflict. Long-term cooperation presented both tactical advantages and potential constraints. His methods were absolute, uncompromising in ways this world's defenders might find difficult to accept. Yet their unique abilities offered combat options unavailable in other dimensions. Before any decision could be finalized, reality shimmered several yards away. A small portal opened, different from the hell breaches they had been fighting. This energy signature was familiar to the Slayer. Sentinel. The portal expanded just enough for a single drone to emerge, a spherical device bearing the mark of his allies from dimensions away. Viga's synthesized voice emerged from the drone, calm and precise as always. "Slayer, dimensional tracking has located your position. Temporary extraction is possible, but the window will close in approximately 30 seconds. The Justice League tensed, prepared for another potential threat, but the Slayer raised a hand to indicate the drone represented no danger. This was his connection to his ongoing mission across the multiverse, the eternal crusade against Hell's expansion. Diana understood the choice he faced. "You have other worlds to save, other battles to fight." The Slayer nodded once. Hell's invasion of the DC universe had been halted, but his war continued across countless dimensions. The tactical decision was clear. This universe had defenders capable of handling future incursions now that they understood the nature of the threat. Other worlds had no such protection. Superman extended, his hand again. "If these demons return, how will we reach you?" The Slayer reached to his belt, removing a small device that his armor had catalogued as non-essential for immediate combat functions. He placed it in Superman's outstretched hand. The device, a modified Sentinel locator beacon, would allow limited dimensional communication should Hell breach this universe again. Batman examined the device with interest. "We'll analyze this, understand how it works." and will be vigilant for any signs of these demons returning." The Slayer turned to the waiting portal, his mission in this dimension complete for now. He had culled Hell's incursion, instructed this world's defenders in recognizing and combating demonic threats, and established contingency for future cooperation. Tactically optimal outcomes given the initial circumstances. Wonder Woman offered a warrior's salute, fist to heart. "Until we meet again, Slayer, may your battles be glorious and your enemies fall before you." Slayer returned the salute with precision, acknowledging a fellow warrior who understood the eternal nature of conflict against forces that threatened all existence. Then, without further ceremony, he stepped through the portal back to his never-ending crusade. The drone followed, the portal closing behind them with a flash of blue energy. Where the Doomslayer had stood remained only scorched earth, and the lingering sense of a fundamental change in the DC Universe's understanding of multiversal threat. Superman looked to the device in his hand, then to the sky where the last traces of Hell's corruption had faded completely. "Do you think they'll come back? These demons?" Batman's expression remained grim. "Evil always returns in some form, but next time we'll be ready." Diana's gaze lingered on the spot where the portal had closed. "We faced a force of pure corruption today, and we witnessed its perfect opposite. The Slayer was a weapon against absolute evil, forged through endless war." "Not so different from us, in some ways," Superman observed, "fighting an unending battle for what's right." "Different methods, same purpose," Batman acknowledged. "Protection of the innocent, elimination of threats." The Justice League gathered their wounded and began the process of rebuilding what Hell's invasion had damaged. The world would need explanations, reassurance that the threat had passed. Buildings could be reconstructed, infrastructure repaired. The psychological impact would take longer to address. Deep beneath Metropolis, in the cavern where the Hell Temple had stood, a tiny mote of corruption remained, overlooked by even the Slayer's thorough scans. A single drop of argent energy, too small to register on any detection system, seeped into the bedrock of the DC universe. There it would wait, dormant but not destroyed, a seed of Hell planted in fertile soil. Across dimensions, the Doomslayer continued his eternal hunt, another world saved, another battle joined. The crusade was never-ending, the war eternal. But for now, at least, one universe had been spared Hell's complete corruption. In the great cosmic balance between order and chaos, creation and destruction, a temporary victory had been won. The DC Universe would remember the day the Doomslayer came, bringing salvation through righteous violence. And should Hell's corruption rise again, they would know who to call. The demon would always rise. The Slayer would always answer. Rip and tear until it is done.